What's up, everybody? This is Alex Christoforou with the Duran, and I'm here with Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of theduran.com. And today we're going to be talking about Putin's Q&A session, which just wrapped up hours ago. So, Alexander, Putin did his annual Q&A session, which is the Q&A for the Russian citizens. He does another Q&A, which is for the press, which you'll explain later. Tell us, what's the purpose of this Q&A? What makes it so special? What's Putin looking to do with this Q&A? Is it strictly for PR reasons? Is it maybe to push some policy or float some policy out? What's the Q&A? Give our viewers the background, and why is it such an important event for Russia and for the world?
It has multiple purposes. The first is that there is an element of PR about it. There's no doubt about that. I mean, it gives Putin a wonderful opportunity to show to the Russian people and to the world what a commanding person he is, how he's able to answer questions on almost any subject, do so for hours, speak with total fluency and total confidence, and it gives an extraordinary impression of the kind of political leader he is. But of course, he does have other specific purposes. Firstly, it shows to the Russian people that he cares about them, that he's interested in their concerns, that he knows about their concerns, that he has a feel about them. So, for example, there was a long part of the Q&A which dealt with the recent increases in Russia of petrol prices. And he was able to talk about this in a way that showed to ordinary Russians that he knows what is going on in their lives. And I have to say, that is very rare amongst political leaders now. I think that is a sign of an engaged political leader. It also gives Putin, as you correctly said, an opportunity to float his ideas, to see how people respond to them. We must understand that, of course, he watches the various sociological surveys that the Russian government routinely operates. They'll be tracking reaction, audience reaction to the various things that Putin says. So they will be able to know very well what sort of ideas Putin floats, which play well, which play less well with the Russian public. So it is a way for Putin to address the Russian public directly, to get a sense of what they think, and for them to get a sense of what...
Alexander, I'll just ask you point blank, is any part of this scripted? Because it goes on for hours, 2, 3, 4 hours.
No. Yeah, I don't think any part of it is. What we know about it is, of course, they do pick the questions. I mean, that's never been any doubt about that. And it's likely that Putin has some general idea of the sort of questions he's going to be asked. Because, I mean, I'm guessing now, but I suspect what happens is that they will know that there are going to be questions on petrol prices, which is a big issue, and he will spend the days before the Q&A preparing answers on petrol prices. I mean, he had the energy minister there so that the energy minister would be able to respond to these sort of questions. But certainly, they're not scripted. And if you follow and watch Putin in action, you can see how lively and spontaneous they are, and frankly, how quick-witted he is, and how he's always on top of
it's really incredible to see him, there for so many hours. I mean, the Constitution and that the man must have to do it is quite impressive.
He has a phenomenal constitution. He is, as we know, a superlative athlete. I mean, apparently he was a judo person of almost Olympic levels. But I think the thing about Putin, a lot of people forget, is that, of course, he was an intelligence officer, but he is also a trained lawyer. And as a trained lawyer, he has the training that lawyers do in memorizing things. He's got that eye for detail, which comes with that kind of training. And he's using it to formidable effect in these sort of Q&A sessions.
That's a great point, because everyone focuses, the Western mainstream media focuses on the fact that he was a KGB spy and he was an intelligence officer, head of the KGB, but no one ever mentions the fact that he is and has undergone legal training, and he has an excellent a legal mind. So going off of what you just said, Alexander, How will the Western mainstream media cover this Q&A, if they cover it at all? Will it be the same smearing of Putin, or will they take maybe a different approach, especially given the fact that we're seeing Europe soften up a little to Russia?
Well, I think some European leaders are softening up to Russia. And of course, in some countries in Europe, Italy, for example, perhaps Spain, people do pay more attention to these things and perhaps pay more attention more sympathetically. I mean, they also do in Greece and Cyprus, as we know. But if we're talking about the mainstream media in Britain, in Germany, and of course in the United States, they will not cover it to any great degree. And if they do, they will find sarcastic and snide things to say about it. That is what they always do. I have a very simple and very crude rule of thumb. Anything you read about Putin in the Western media, you can completely ignore because it is completely not true. I mean, and I'm afraid when it comes to the Q&As, that's an example.
What stood out from this year's Q&A, Alexander?
For me, the thing that really stood out is his optimism. I mean, one gets the sense of Putin having come through, and Russia having come through, a very difficult 6 years. I mean, when he became president, as we remember, there were election protests, and the Russians feel those were partly organized by the West. There was the Ukrainian crisis, there were the sanctions, there was the oil price fall, there was the recession, there was a huge campaign that there's been against Russia and which continues against Russia. But I think they sense, and I think Putin senses, that all this is now, that Russia's turned the corner, that things are going to start getting easier now. The economy is growing. Things have stabilized, living standards are improving, even the international situation doesn't look quite as difficult as it did a few years ago. And I thought one of the most telling phrases was right at the beginning, when he was asked how to describe the situation. Was it black or grey or white? White being the best. He said, well, actually, I think it's white. Though when you say white, there's always specks of grey within the white. But nonetheless, it is overall white. So I think that's how he feels about it. I think he feels optimistic and cheerful. And that was certainly the impression I got from it.
Yeah, that was an excellent moment. It was right at the beginning. And after that moment, actually, Alexander, he went on to, I think, probably the second question that he answered from the journalist that was at the table with him was, why did he choose to stick with the government that basically navigated the previous years, that navigated such troubled waters, both domestically and internationally. And it reminded me of a piece that you wrote, which was basically the same argument as to why Putin chose the government that he chose, which is basically the same people that have been in government for the last 6 years. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, I think we've just talked about the very difficult times that Russia has had over the 6 years. But the fact is, it's come through them pretty well. It had a very shallow recession. Inflation has been really brought down. I mean, it was about 12%. In about 2010, it shot up to about 15% in 2015. It's now at around 2%. I mean, they've done really well there. They had a shallow recession, unemployment didn't rise. Economically, actually, the country is in pretty good shape. You wouldn't believe that to listen or hear some of the things that are said in the West, but that's the reality of it. So what Putin said is, why change a winning team? They've been doing pretty well. Bringing in all sorts of new people would mean that all these new people would have to spend 2 years learning their jobs. He doesn't have 2 years to waste because he's got to move the economy forward. So he's keeping the same people who have proved themselves in their jobs so that the country can move forward successfully with the very ambitious economic plans that he has.
Finally, Alexander, this is a little bit of an interesting question. Let's see if you can take a stab at it. Could any other world leader right now on the world stage pull off such a Q&A session for so long and be so candid, answering so many broad questions from domestic policy to foreign policy? Does any name pop up to your mind of someone that could actually do what Putin does year in, year out?
Well, the short answer is no. I mean, no world leader would risk doing a thing like that. I mean, first of all, none of them have that ability. Perhaps the world leader who has the greatest command of detail, apart from Putin himself, is Xi Jinping in China. But the political system in China doesn't really work that way, and I can't see him doing it. All the others, Merkel, Trump, Theresa May, Macron, they would be smashed if they tried anything like that. They wouldn't be able to carry it off. They'd come out totally wrong. They couldn't do it. Only Putin can do it. And I think I should say something, actually. Russians, when you speak to Russians, they know it. They know they have a unique leader able to do this. And it is a source of pride for them. I mean, I've heard Russians talk in this way. Only our president is able to talk to us like this, in this direct way. No other leader in the world can do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think if, the Western mainstream media showed these types of Q&A sessions and highlighted them in their reports, I think it would just blow apart the caricature narrative that they have of Putin today.
I think we both know Russia. Of course, you've lived there. And I think we can both say that the caricature Putin and the real Putin are two completely different people. They are completely different people who happen to share the same name. But there is no similarity other than that between them. I mean, the real Putin is clever, incisive, humorous, extremely polite. That's one thing that comes across very well in these Q&As, has no great arrogance about him. I mean, when one thinks of someone like Macron, for example, who oozes arrogance, there's nothing like that in Putin. He is completely the opposite of what the Western media makes him out to be.
Yeah, I completely agree. Alexander, thanks a lot for breaking down the incredible Q&A that we saw today in Moscow. Everyone watching this, if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe by clicking that red button down below. Also click that notifications bell to get notifications every time we push out a new video. And please visit the Duran shop, pick up a shirt, help support the Duran, help support broadcasts like this. Take care, till next time.